Welcome to another edition, actually a special edition of the Gulf Coast Growth Show. I'm here with two really good friends of mine. To my left is Coalter Baker, the Executive Director of the Gulf Coast Protection District. And on my right, your left, is Sharon Hulgan, who is on the board of the Gulf Coast Protection District, but also the lead site manufacturing director for Dow, Houston Area Operations, which when I describe you, I say she's in charge of all the Dow here in Houston. Is that pretty accurate?
That is accurate. I do expand a little bit outside of the Houston area.
That's right.
So I have Texas City vinyl acetate monomer facility, a large specialty monomer facility in Bayport, which is still in this general region, and then the large facility here in Deer Park.
Yeah. Well, basically, she's in charge of all of Dow, and we love her. So there's that. Chad Burke with the Economic Alliance, Houston Port Region. And we're here today to talk about the Gulf Coast Protection District, but really the project that the Gulf Coast Protection District is going to, I'm not going to say build, but they're going to oversee the building and design and everything of that. So we'll talk about that. So I'm gonna toss it out, I think, to Coalter to begin, to give us a little bit of history about what brought us to this project that is going to protect really the Texas Gulf Coast, but for us, the Galveston Bay area, from direct hits and hurricane surge?
Yeah, it's a good question. And first, Chad, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
This is an important topic and something that is long in the making, right? And I think we have some really big news to share with folks. And honestly, the history is pretty simple, right? In Houston, we do big things. We have NASA. We help put people on the moon. Yep. We provide a lot of energy to the nation. Mm-hmm. And in that vein, we don't come without challenges. Excuse me. One of them being natural disasters. We've had
big too, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely, very big. We've had a dozen in the span of 20 years, and we're in a race against time because it's only a matter of time until the next one hits. So a little backstory, right? And Steve Kane, who's the current CEO of the partnership, likes to say this, and I'm kind of stealing from him because it's a really good point. What does Houston do after we have a natural disaster, right? We put our boots on and we go fix the problem. Yep. Tropical Storm Allison happened and it flooded the medical center. And we have one of the largest medical centers in the nation. Mm-hmm. A lot of foreigners and Americans get cured from cancer by MD Anderson and Methodist Hospital and all the special assets we have here. We really needed to protect that asset, right? And so we built gate systems around the medical center, and then lo and behold, Hurricane Harvey comes, floods most of our region, dumps a ton of water, barely got any flooding at the medical center. Yep. So we can do this, right? Yep. So again, getting back to our project, the Coastal Texas Project, Hurricane Ike came in 2008 and brought with it a 17-foot storm surge, decimating our coast. Yep. A lot of our coastal cities, narrowly missing the Houston Ship Channel, the largest petrochemical complex in the planet.
What a lot of people don't know is that surge, even though it wasn't a direct hit, it wasn't the worst case scenario. The city of Seabrook, which is one of our cities, had 5 foot of water in the entire city, and they're a coastal city. They're right on the bay, but 5 foot of water throughout the entire city. I mean, and it just wiped them out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it caused so much damage that Congress came back and said, "Hey, we need to fix this problem." Mm-hmm. So the feds partnered with the state, the General Land Office, to do a $20 million study with the Army Corps of Engineers, created the Coastal Texas Project Chiefs Report, right? The report that is the beginning, the conceptual design of this project. And now we are trying to advocate and get some funding to help build a gate and levee system at Bolivar Peninsula, along with beaches and dunes lining our coast to protect our citizens from storm surge.
Literally holding the water back when the storm surge comes. And I know we'll probably get into it. We'll talk a little bit about what they do over in Europe and in Holland and places like that. But I want to toss it to you real quick, Sharon. Coalter touched on it. Houston has a lot of number ones by its name. It's the number one healthcare center in the country. It's the energy capital of the world. It's NASA. It's also the number one petrochemical complex, not just in the nation, but in the world. Why is Dow interested in this project with your Dow cap on, if you will? Why is the petrochemical industry
Sure.
involved in this?
Our CEO wrote a letter of support to this, and I was encouraged to join the board to represent industry because we've seen firsthand the devastating effect that these storms can have. So in 2017, when Harvey hit, a lot of our employees and our site took on water that we couldn't immediately get out. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the cost of Harvey, it was $125 billion. Adjusted for inflation, that's $159 billion. And industry is all about generating value, investing in things that have a significant rate of return. And if we can invest $35 billion to avoid a $160 billion expenditure while also protecting the homes, the lives, of employees of millions of people, right? I'm concerned about my employees, their lives, their homes, but I'm also concerned about the livelihoods, right? If we take on a large storm surge, especially of high salinity water that would get pushed into the bay and potentially into motor control centers, our strategy is always protect people, protect the community. But the type of storm that the Gulf Coast Protection District is protecting us from and designing for is that storm where our policy would be to evacuate and come back and see how long it's going to take us to safely get back in business. And that'll be disruptive, not just to the state of Texas, but to the global economy because of so much supply chain that flows in and out of the Port of Houston would be disruptive to military aviation fuel, the price of gasoline across the United States, and just the general movement of goods that we rely on to enjoy the quality of life we have here in Texas and in America.
I'll go back to a point that I have to make almost on a daily basis. The Houston Ship Channel accounts for 20% of the state's GDP. And if you interrupt that for 1 week, for 2 weeks, for a month, for 6 weeks to get back up and running, that's a significant hit to our state's economy. And it ripples through the whole nation's economy as well with the gas prices and prices of the goods that we make and the interruption that would cause.
And Chad, we take that message up to DC, right? Yeah. We've been meeting with people in the White House. Russ Vought, the OMB director, he met with us 3 days before we had a shutdown, which if you know anything about OMB, they're the lead negotiator with Congress on funding bills. So it shows the priority that the Trump administration is giving to this project. And the message is simple, right? It helps further along the energy dominance agenda of this administration. 80%, you touched on it, Sharon, 80% of the military grade fuel comes from our region. 60% of aviation fuel, 30% of our gasoline, about 30% of our strategic petroleum reserve. I mean, you touched on the Port Houston, number one port in the nation in tonnage. I mean, there's a lot at risk. Yeah,
there really is. So you mentioned DC. Let's jump into some really encouraging funding milestones that the district has been able to accomplish here recently with your work.
Yeah, it's huge news. We are so happy and thankful to have received $5 million, at least $5 million, thanks to Congressman Randy Weber, that'll help us start our design. And yes, we know that that's a drop in the ocean, forgive the pun, but we need to start. I mean, Sharon, Dow, y'all build billion-dollar facilities. Like the design of doing that right, it takes time, making sure all the stakeholders are and making sure industry can handle and operate.
Absolutely, and we do it just like that. We do a pre-authorization to begin that engineering study because it takes money to get that design so that you get it right and you can build it.
Yeah, so it'll help us accelerate our state funding, right? We have about $500 million in available state funding to help accelerate the movement on design. We expect, we've hired 2 firms, one to do the gate structure, Jacobs Engineering, and one to do the beaches and dunes, HDR. And we think the design will take about 4 to 5 years to get it right. We're going to begin ensuring our stakeholders are well informed and brought along the entire way. Because the last thing we want to do is design something that doesn't work for industry, which creates the economic vitality of the community, that also protects the community and the environment as well.
Yeah. And I know we don't have, I don't have a nice visual here, but the design that you're talking about, and you mentioned it, but you're talking about some sort of gate component at the Bolivar Roads, if I'm saying that correctly, Galveston to Bolivar, right? So that we can close that in advance of a storm surge, protect the Galveston Bay, keep all of that water from washing up. And then adjacent to that would be the dune system that runs down Bolivar to, I guess, the northeast. I'll call it the northeast, east, and then possibly down south too. But I know along Bolivar. And so that's the design that you're talking about.
Absolutely. And one more point on that design, and that was perfectly illustrated, by the way, is it also, it's a dual benefit. It creates a flood mitigation tool as well, right? If we close the gates at low tide, you're creating more space for the largest detention reservoir we have in the region, which is Galveston Bay.
Yeah. Engineering is a beautiful thing, especially when you got the right people running it.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. And so I'll toss this softball out to both of y'all. Is this the first time this type of project has ever been done? I mean, it not scale wise, but other projects around the world, right?
No, so it's not. And again, I want to be careful about what we're talking about here, because we're going to go through an entire design process that will look at alternatives. And we've seen some alternatives both in the UK and barrier systems in the Netherlands. And we're going to be working with our partners abroad to bring their expertise down as well through our academic research council that we're going to start hopefully soon. It'll be led by Texas A&M. And Rice and some of our other research partners. But I think, so one of the gates we're thinking about is like the Melisant gate. I might be pronouncing that wrong. Melisant gate in the Netherlands, and it's a swing gate that comes together and it sinks to the bottom, helping create a barrier to prevent a surge situation.
Yep. Very good.
One of the things we're very thoughtful of in our design is to ensure we do not impede traffic for the Port of Houston. You know, the Houston pilots, what they do for us is incredibly vital, and we have to design something that allows them a non-congested flow path for the 364.9 days that this thing is wide open, right? We hope to never have to shut it, but we know that it's just a matter of time before that perfect storm comes and hits us. And this will enable us to protect the people and the assets that are on the other side of that gate.
Yep.
And that's why we're partnering with Port Houston. We're partnering with the Houston pilots, all of industry, to make sure what we're doing. That's exactly right, Sharon. And it's going to be a long road. And, we may attach ourselves to other projects that the Army Corps is working on, like possibly deepening and widening of the ship channel in Project 12 that Port Houston would like to be underway. In fact, they just received some funding from the president. So we're excited about starting this work.
Yeah, it's such a vital corridor that to create that coalition to kind of pull that project together is just paramount for making it a success. And as we talked about before the show, I mean, the ship channel is at 45 feet deep right now. Project 12 takes it to 55 feet. And so you got to kind of, you work that into the program, so good. In the dunes, I would just wanted to touch on this real quick. So the dunes also create, obviously storm surge barrier, right? But then there's also some amenities that can go along with that. I mean, the ones that I've seen in Europe have hike and bike trails on top of them. So it really creates a system that is intertwined with the community and the ability to enjoy the landscape while at the same time protecting it. Is that right?
Absolutely. There will be public benefits, and we're going to continue to work those into our design process as we move forward. We're thinking of widening the beaches, right? So you're creating more space for the public to enjoy our Gulf Coast. We're going to make those dunes much higher. They'll be double dunes so that right as sand washes away, we can rebuild them, and as the operation and maintenance continues. But yeah, we're going to make much larger beaches. Everything's bigger in Texas, right?
Yeah. And we need bigger beaches. The thing that I'm not sure if y'all get into this side of it, but long in this conversation has been the fact of, and Sharon, you mentioned how much damage was from Harvey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have the number on the tip of my tongue from Ike, but if you can successfully build the barrier, then that creates the opportunity for insurance premiums behind the barrier to go down, and it will eventually save a lot of us, whether it's corporate or individuals. It will change the makeup of what we consider danger zones for insurance purposes.
We certainly hope the market will see that less risk means taking more chances, right? I mean, that's would be one of many benefits that we hope to.
But insurance premiums are typically driven by claims.
Sure, and as claims go down, right?
Absolutely. And so Harvey was this big water event, which is what we're trying to protect from with the Coastal Texas project to prevent that surge from coming in. And just in Harvey, in the area of Houston, there were 250,000 vehicles that were destroyed. And so when you think about the disruption, when people can't drive where they need to go, I mean, we are so conditioned for the conveniences of life. And when you consider the inundation that could happen if we don't build this, and how it could literally immobilize us for a significant period of time, I think it's why you have so much support for this project. There's bipartisan support for it. There's public support. There's industrial support, because it's just the right thing to go do.
Excellent. So let's look forward a little bit now. So what will be needed to continue to move this project forward? What's next on the horizon for GCPD, for us in whether it's Austin or DC? What are our next steps to moving forward?
Sure. So we're showing progress, right? We're moving the ball down the road. We need to continue that steady drumbeat of advocacy from our partners, both industry and stakeholders around, to help us make sure that policymakers know that this is a priority for this region and that this region matters, right? And that any harm that comes to this region could create a terrible ripple effect for the nation. So really, it's a matter of funding. And we are also looking at other options. Not quite ready to divulge all the details, but we're looking into P3s and other finance means to make sure that we achieve this, because it's certainly a priority for our region.
Mm-hmm.
And we continue to monitor the progress that's already being made. So the Gulf Coast Protection District acquired the responsibility for the Sabine to Galveston projects, where there is already some protection, but part of what we're doing is enhancing that protection to make it more robust. And so we see additional height being added to levee systems and some engineering improvements being made in Jefferson County.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing our first work on what's called G28 with some value engineering to decide, okay, how large do these dune systems need to be, and really working to ensure that habitat areas are maintained so that we don't lose a lot of the wonderful wildlife that makes this area so great for the people that love living here.
Well, it's a monumental undertaking. I think I heard the chairman say this was the largest project that the U.S. Corps of Engineers will have ever undertaken, right?
That's correct. That's
accurate.
what we've heard. Largest civil works project
there you go.
in the history.
In history. And we're better to do it than Texas, right? So I'm kind of proud about that. Does that present any potential, naysayers and obstacles? And how do we continue to kind of beat the drum, if you will, to tell that message?
Yeah, it's because this project is so big. It will create impacts, right? And we're trying to mitigate those impacts as we try and mitigate storm surge risk management issues. And I guess that brings me to a little bit of bad news, right? I mean, we are very excited about this. We have funding now. We are going to move forward in a real way. But recent history suggests that investment typically comes after a disaster, right? Mm-hmm. And so our strategy right now is to get as far along on the design so that we have something that everyone can agree on that works for all parties, that to begin construction right after our next storm when Congress tends to dump large sums of money.
I hate to say that, but you're absolutely right. Same thing happened in New Orleans. Fortunately for them, I guess the good side of that coin was they had a project ready to go that the Corps had already signed off on, and were able to do that. Like you said, the farther and faster we can get down this track, the better chance that we have to build before the catastrophe happens. But should we catch another storm, then it really focuses the nation and Congress's attention back on what we're doing here, and we'll be ready to go, right?
Yeah, I think it's important for everybody to remember that the U.S. government spends $5 trillion a year. And so when you look at a project like this, that over the course of multiple years,
sounds big to us, right? But it's
it sums to $35 billion, and it's not all going to be spent in 1 year. Yeah. And when we have a federal expenditure that's $5 trillion a year, this is a small investment
to protect a large portion of our economy.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's the same for any infrastructure project we advocate for here. Spend money where you make money, right? Protect and allow what is driving your economy to grow. And this is a project that speaks directly to that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, this is its own insurance policy.
Exactly.
It's why we insure our homes, why we insure our cars, because we can't afford the loss.
Yeah. That's exactly right. And I'll steal another saying that I heard from a mentor. I guess Charlie Jenkins was talking to him yesterday, and he always talks about how Port Houston it's basically almost $1 trillion of annual economic impact, right? I mean, that's a big deal. If the federal government spends 5 of that a year, right? That's one. And so what good business wouldn't have an insurance policy or wouldn't spend a couple billion on that insurance policy?
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what we are.
Well, I think that's a great way to sum up this conversation. It's such an important project. The work that GCPD and Coalter and the staff and Sharon and the board have done, the leadership and the team that is assembled now is really the one that I think will get us to the finish line. So thank you to both of y'all and to the entire organization for what y'all are doing. I really appreciate it. And I guarantee you one day the entire Houston area and the state of Texas and the United States is going to appreciate it. So what y'all are doing will ripple through the decades. So appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we'll wrap up this special edition of the Gulf Coast Growth Show, and we'll see you next time here.